Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Monday night episode of Sup Talk Radio. Our guest's product was recently reviewed on the Final Scoop podcast, where he received a resounding 4 thumbs up, thus giving him the Final Scoop seal of approval. We'll talk about his feelings on that. We'll talk about the origins of the company and the man himself. Allow me to introduce Steve Hanna of Crystal Pump. Steve, how are you, my friend?
Wonderful down here in not so sunny Florida right now. Sun goes down at 6 o'clock, but we deal with it.
But did you have an early bird dinner, or do you have a regular time dinner down in Florida?
I eat pretty early. I go to sleep pretty early, so
Okay.
I don't mind eating at 5:30. Today I ate. Honestly, if I describe my diet, people would know that I have crippling body dysmorphia. It was awful. It was a chicken breast and some garbanzo beans. It was a bizarre.
Well, you got carbs, you got protein, you got some fiber. It's all good.
You do what you got to do. I ate pretty poorly earlier in the day. You just got to make the numbers work.
So, Steve, I'm going to come flat out and ask you. You were the first person when I posted looking for people to what's the word I'm looking for? For people to go ahead and allow us to review their product, and you resoundingly raised your hand very, very quickly. Okay, what were you thinking? I mean, when you said, "Oh," after I acknowledged it and said, "Yep, you're in," were you kind of worried? Were you nervous? Like, what was going through your mind? You're like, "Shit, what did I just do?"
It's part of it's funny because I've been listening to the show for going on a year and a half, and heard about it from Dave Cook. Dave Cook's on the show. I found out after raising my hand to be on there, and it was just kind of funny I was going to be on it. In a way, I just kind of like laughing. Yeah, hopefully it's good things. I always get a little, not as nervous as I used to get, because when I give out my product in person to people at Crunch Fitness, the local gym that the college kids go to, I get such mixed reviews from college kids.
Yep.
That it used to make me really self-conscious. Like, is this a good formula? Is this a good product? But the thing is that you're dealing with people who are currently drinking, C4, and they're happy with it.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily somebody who can catch the nuance sometimes of a blend that's going for something totally different than C4. Or they think it's the best thing they've ever had in their life. There's not a whole lot of in between. They either want the craziest product ever, or they enjoy it, or they just don't give a shit because they'll drink a Red Bull. They don't care about what it is. They just want some caffeine. And that's not necessarily Crystal Pump. So getting on to Final Scoop, I was pretty nervous when Review Bros did a review for me.
Oh, okay.
Because they don't always give positive reviews.
And they're stim heads. They're glorified stim heads.
Yes. And so when I watched products that I thought were kind of similar to Crystal Pump, and they were getting like a 6 through 8 out of 10, I was like, okay, well, 8 out of 10 I'd be very happy with.
Yep.
And I got a 9. So it was
good. Okay.
After that, I'm like, what? How bad could the guys on Final Scoop give me? If they give me a 7, from those guys, that's pretty good. It was more of a thumbs up, thumbs down system. So, obviously it came out a winner.
Yeah.
But it's like a 7 out of 10 or something. Different strokes for different folks. And if I was a 7 to them, I'd be pretty happy with it. Especially somebody like Robert, because my products are, Crystal Pump is almost like a low stem version of his stuff.
Yes. And it's interesting because, I've been in the industry so long, and I respect a brand that has to promote their product. I'm not saying putting you in this category. I'm saying in general. People say where it's the best this, it's the greatest that, it's the highest this and the highest that. But then sometimes when you ask them to validate it, they don't. Okay. Like Robert and I went off on his tangent behind the scenes. There was a company that said it was the strongest pre-workout they've ever had, and total combined caffeine was like 350 milligrams of caffeine. And of course, we laugh because if anybody knows Robic, that's half a scoop on half his stuff.
Yes.
No. So it was twofold to say, okay, listen, who's going to be ballsy enough to raise their hand and let us test that and stand behind their products? Because again, when push comes to shove, I've learned a lot of people will not truly stand behind their products because sometimes they don't know enough about it. Okay. And now with the positivity, I mean, to be honest, I'm going to put myself on a pedestal here. I think that segment went very well. We had 6 products and they all reviewed very well. So I'm hoping that the next round that we do, that maybe people will reserve because they're saying, well, I'm being reviewed by a brand owner. and how's that going to come out? But hopefully everybody felt, and hopefully you felt, that Robic was not gauging it on his products. It was based on just his knowledge, the formula, and everything else. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, plus I was in a lot of different areas in, I definitely see it in strength sports, is that a lot of people aren't open to veteran leadership.
Yes.
And you kind of end up with these insulated cultures where there's a massive cultural shift because nobody respects the veterans of the industry, the veterans of the scene, and the veterans aren't stepping up for themselves. And so you kind of get these massive shifts. So if I didn't want a veteran opinion on the formula, on the brand, on the name, whatever, I'd really be missing out on a pretty integral part of the process of actually, becoming something better.
Yes, yes. So, Steve, let's start off with your background. Growing up, I mean, we follow your Instagram. We see a lot of strongman feats. So, obviously, you're strongman. But like, walk me through your demographics growing up: athlete, normal kid, geek, IT person. Like, what were you growing up?
It's a fat kid.
Okay.
I was overweight growing up and super self-conscious. And really, like, my kind of entry into, kind of before, I've always been a jokester. I've always been somebody who is, people describe it as witty. I think that most people who describe themselves as witty probably aren't particularly witty. I mean,
Okay.
I may more than the average person. I'm pretty witty, and always a jokester. Class clown in high school. Also won best dancer, directly related to class clown, and
Was that
really
to
was
win
finding.
people over, Steve? I didn't mean was that to win people over because of you being overweight? Because, like, as you see, most overweight comedians, they turn to comedy to get people to like them.
Yeah, I would definitely say that was a way that I, if nothing else, it was a way that I felt comfortable getting people to like me.
Okay.
Um, and it also kind of helps you when you feel like you don't really fit in. You can kind of do your own thing. You're fine.
Yep.
When you don't feel like I've never wanted to be into fashion. I've never, I spent the first, it wasn't until I was probably 20 that I ever combed my hair.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's always very, honestly, that stemmed from a low confidence. But in another way, you could say it was kind of like a going against trends and doing something different when you're trying to be funny versus edgy, or because other people can go that path, almost like a dangerous path,
Okay.
or you can go funny. And it's an easy way for you to fit in with people who are very different from you, because, like, many different. I wouldn't say that there's like a prototypical person who doesn't like me.
Yep.
Not everyone likes me. Like I was saying, I told you off the air,
Yep.
but it's not necessarily predictable. But
Okay.
yeah, it's based on, I was funny because I didn't feel comfortable with I guess the typical path, and so I turned to humor.
Okay.
I feel like I went a little off tangent there, but
All
with
good.
once I started, we had a weight training class in high school that I signed up for because my brother got surprisingly jacked from that class.
Okay.
And it was basically, that guy was really into the Nautilus stuff. And so we would just do a full body circuit. I think once they changed the class schedule, it was every day, which was pretty not particularly adequate, or whatever you want to call it, ideal.
Yep. Okay.
But we would just do that, and I got in a decent shape. One of my good friends started working at a vitamin shop, and so that got us into supplements. I started to lose weight as I was doing the weight training. More than anything, it was just gaining some muscle under the fat. Just confidence-wise, really brought things up.
Okay. Were you eating right too?
And
Were you eating right, or you just kind of relying on the weights?
I couldn't possibly be eating worse.
Okay.
Looking back on things, I mean, that's why I was fat. I drank 6 sodas a day.
Jeez, that's like 1,200 kids, 700 calories right there.
Yeah, and like my mom, she's making fried chicken for dinner, which I actually begged her not to do because I have terrible self-control. I'd be eating Pop-Tarts before and after, raiding the pantry. It's a wonder that I only got up to like 230.
And how tall are you?
5'7".
Okay. All right.
And honestly, it's not that fat, but I just looked fat.
Yep.
And because it's kind of crazy, it really isn't that fat, but we don't have muscle that's pretty fat. And then I went to this gym. It was the only gym in town that did not require a parent signature.
Oh, interesting.
And it was the greatest. To this day, it's the best gym I've ever been to. They don't make, it's not just they don't make gyms like that anymore. I think those people all went to prison or died of heart disease or, you know,
Okay.
whatever it is. It was the best. There's no gym in America that could have been better than MuscleWorks Bradenton. And it was like $15 a month or something for teens. And
Wow. Okay.
I'd go in there and there'd be the guys who were competitive powerlifters or competitive bodybuilders or a landscaper who was just running blast. And the environment was awesome. I was scared of everyone. And learned from my friend whose dad used to do bodybuilding.
Like
What's
dingy?
that?
Was it like dark and dingy? Kind of, you know.
It looked
What's
just like Gold's Gym in Pumping Iron. Like it looked exactly like that. It had yellow walls. The Eagles were always playing.
Interesting. Okay.
You know, it was always just classic rock and like specifically the Eagles type of classic rock and dudes grunting and screaming.
Okay.
Great equipment. I mean, it had the old like chain Nautilus equipment.
Sure.
Amazing gym. You know, I've never had another experience like MuscleWorks. And learned to actually do a bodybuilding program for my friend whose dad bodybuilded, you know, in the 80s or whatever.
Okay.
And so we did like the old 12-8-6-6, and then like once it's too heavy, you do 10-6-4-4, and you just kind of run those blocks until you don't feel like it anymore.
Okay.
And I was feeling happier with my physique, but it wasn't until I found out about like low carb dieting, which I was a low carb zealot for years. I'm not anymore, but that's how I really lost weight. I lost like 40 pounds low carb dieting and powerlifting.
So when you say low carb, what's low carb though, in your mind?
30 total a week.
I'm sorry, 30 a day, or what was it?
30 grams a day.
Okay.
Yeah, I said a week, but 30 grams a day, 6 days a week, low carb, and then 1 day. It was the old Carb Night program. I don't know if you remember Carb Night. It was very popular with powerlifters because of Mark Bell.
Okay.
So it was very popular back in the 2011 or 2010 when I was doing it.
Interesting.
And I did the Carb Night diet, then I did carb backloading. It was the same author of the books, and I really believed in like manipulating carbs. It worked pretty well. And that's partly how I got into powerlifting. Is just kind of stumbling upon those Mark Bell videos and watching his powerlifting videos and being like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then you watch some West Side Barbell videos, like, oh, that's really cool. Then you find a powerlifting program and it's a West Side program, so you just max out twice a week, every week. And it was awesome. Okay. You know, you had a blast. You know, I was 20 years old and just really enjoyed that style of lifting. The people that were doing it, there were some great powerlifters at the gym. And that's what got me into that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Strongman came to be, you know, ironically, I wasn't particularly strong. But I enjoyed watching, you know, Strongman when it was on. You know, once you're on YouTube, you can watch some more Strongman. And I saw an event was happening in Daytona. I was in Gainesville at the time. There's an event in Daytona. I'm like, oh, that'd be cool to do, but like, I can't squat 405. There's no way I could do a 405 yoke, which now I know it's not related at all. And I'm like, well, I'm not strong enough, but I want to do it. And then we did like a training day because there's Atlas Stones at the UF gym for some reason.
Cool.
And we did it 1 week, and I was like, okay, well, now I'm going to sign up for competition. And it just kind of went from there. And that was 2014.
Okay.
And I just love it. Strongman is a great sport. It's a very unique community. It's small. It's not like I'm sure you've been around the scene for long. It's not like arm wrestling. Arm wrestling is super niche. I really respect arm wrestlers, so that's super niche. It's not like grip sport, but Strongman's kind of its own thing. I'd say it's bigger and more popular than Highland Games, which more normal people, like regular people, know about Highland Games. As far as people actually competing and doing it, I think Strongman's a lot bigger than that.
Have you ever gone like deep into the past of like 70s and 80s where it wasn't really strongman, but they had like bodybuilders doing walk-ins with refrigerators on their back?
Yeah,
I see some with Franco Colombo and strength.
I those 80s competitions are pretty sick. There's
Yes.
those late 70s ones where there was just all sorts of random people. It Strongman began as being something very fun, and it's kind of still it's gone through these phases of legitimizing, if you want to call it that,
Yep.
of being a regular sport. But those 70s competitions or the 80s even some of the 90s stuff, it's just some kind of hilarious events that they put in front of them. But it's become more and more of like a traditional sport, I guess, or a strength sport.
Yep.
Well, it's still obtuse enough for guys like me to enjoy doing it, enjoy training for it and everything.
So what do you enjoy out of all the events? Is there something you excel at or like most?
So for me, it's definitely yoke.
Okay.
To somebody who even to people who do strongman, that probably sounds kind of strange, because it is not an event. No one is ever going to ask me like, "What's your fastest 50-foot yoke with 650?" You know, it's such a specific event. You
Yep.
know, like you can't be like, "Oh, well, how much can you do?" Like that's not. There's weight, there's distance, there's time, and all three of those are totally
Okay.
different. Typically, time and distance. It's just impossible to give it like a reference, but it's by far my favorite because my first competition, first big competition that I did horrible at yoke. It took me 53 seconds. As soon as I picked it up, I farted in my warm shorts, like the blue Reband warm shorts that everybody sees on TV. And in those warm shorts, it feels like I crap myself as soon as I picked it up. And I'm like, geez. And I had to go 50 feet down and 50 feet back, feeling like I crapped my pants. And it took me 53 seconds. The guy who won got 16 and a half seconds, and the guy who got second place got 16.9. Third place got 23 seconds. So I got obliterated. And to me, I was like, okay, well, I suck at this. So let me go back to start, because even if I get stronger, it's not, I'm not going to be faster. So let me get faster at this. And it turned out that the guys that I was going against were number 2, number 3 in the world, and were specialists at yoke. And so I didn't know that. I just knew that I got stomped at my competition. And so
you got murdered,
I
dude.
got
You
better
got
and better. And then I became, was that?
You got murdered. You get stomped. You got murdered.
Yes. You know, it completely embarrassed. You know, in my video of doing it too, like I can't find, I found a thing in the other guy's videos. He's finishing while I'm like waddling down. And kind of the funny thing about strongman is they tend to cheer for the people who are struggling a lot more than they cheer for the people who are dominating.
Yeah.
So the crowd's going wild because it
underdog.
looks like I'm not even going to finish it. And so the crowd's going wild as I'm just, struggling to the end. But yeah, I mean, that's what got me started on really doing yoke and getting faster and faster and faster. I would say there was a time, I'd say in 2020, people would be hard pressed. I would have definitely accepted a challenge from anybody in the world at my size for a yoke race.
Yep. So what's the weight of the yoke generally for your?
So for 175, it's usually between 600 and 750.
Damn. Okay.
It's pretty typical. It's a very different speed that you're running with 600 to 750.
Yep.
Because it's almost like it's a pretty gradual change. Like with 600, it's almost like jogging with it. Once you're really trying to be competitive.
Yeah.
But with like 750, I mean, I like to move fast because it's very painful. But I try to get it done as quick as I can. But it's not particularly fast.
Okay.
But now, I've had so many injuries over the years. I mean, if we really get into like the strongman stuff, I can break things down a whole another hour on strongman. But right now, because I've been dealing with so many different injuries, I had like a glute tear a couple of years ago. That's been honestly pretty brutal to really fully recover from.
Interesting. Okay.
And of all things, like I've never really heard of somebody straining their glute that bad.
You start your glute and not your hamstring? Because I've had that too, where it was actually the hamstring underneath the glute, even though it thought it was my glute.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the glute. It's right like underneath. Like when you're rolling your piriformis or something with the ball.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cheeked.
Okay.
It's a bizarre feeling too. Like when you have the strain tear, whatever you want to call it. I feel like tear is so dramatic. It didn't really bruise up. But it's been bothering me for 2 years. So I'd say it's pretty serious. 2.5 years.
And then of course, like anything, you got to make sure you don't injure the other one, because you know how it is. You injure one side of your body, you favor the other one, and now the other one gets out of whack.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's been really a process of trying to be, I don't think pain-free is the right way to put it, because certain things always don't feel good.
Yep.
But just being able to like comfortably deadlift heavy, comfortably, it's really a deadlift thing. Sometimes like certain picks, like things off the ground. There's so many different movements in strongman that it's kind of difficult to break everything down about what hurts and what doesn't. And I've had a bicep injury, a wrist injury, and the dumbest injuries too. Like it's rarely from doing strongman.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to do these kettlebell front squats so I could show my clients like how to do kettlebell stuff. I was personal training at the time. Now I'm full-time Crystal Pump.
Okay.
I was trying to do a video with the kettlebell front squats, and I think I'll just go a little bit heavier. And it's just 50s. I've done it with 70s, and I hear a snap in my wrist.
Oh Jesus.
And I put it down as like some sort of ligament sprain or something. And that took forever to come back too, because I would try and do stuff and it'd shift out of plate. It was very painful.
Okay.
And honestly, it was more scary than painful. I don't know that painful is the best way to describe it. It was more scary than painful. It was a very bizarre feeling.
Okay, so now with all the injuries, do you subscribe to any kind of therapies, whether it's cryo, whether it's the ice baths or rolling, or like what do you do to work that stuff out? Or do you do any of that type of stuff? Massage,
Physical
anything?
therapy has been corrective exercise has been the most effective thing for me.
Okay.
More than anything, corrective exercise has made the biggest difference. I've littered with issues. And really, if there is to be somebody that should have never gotten into strength sports, it's probably me.
And you're so young too.
I'm 32. You know, it's pretty. That's kind of like the prime for a strength athlete. But I mean, when I was 19, I was having knee issues. It turns out it was from being insanely inflexible.
Okay.
And that was also around the same time that the big, huge trend was, oh, don't stretch. Nobody needs to stretch. Stretching is bad for you. And so I was like, great, I hate stretching. And things only got worse.
Yeah, that's how you know you're getting old, where the warm up is just as long as the actual workout. I've learned that myself from experience.
Yeah, and you know what's also funny though is that for strongman, because at competitions, so often there is no, not really, it's not really a thing anymore. But when I was doing it, it was still kind of the era that you go to a parking lot, they set everything up, and then it's kind of like, all right, man, we're starting in 5 minutes, and you do 1 or 2 warm ups and you go max out.
Yeah, I can imagine a couple of bodyweight sumo squats and right into it.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it is. So it's kind of what I got used to over the years. And it's kind of survive or die kind of mindset with that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times the warm up takes forever.
So now, what is your wife telling you? Because obviously you shared with me you're married. Now, is she just like, honey, it's enough is enough, or is she just like, whatever, just be careful?
She's an extremely supportive person. She's an extremely
you come home broken.
Yeah, she doesn't mind if I'm all broken down. She treats me like I could hobble into the room. She'd be like, "You're moving great." You know, she's so positive for everything that I'm doing. You know, if I'm happy doing it, she's happy that I'm doing it.
Does she go to the shows? Will she go to the events? Does she go to the events or the shows?
Yeah, she goes to them.
Okay.
She doesn't lift at all. She's the first girl I ever dated that didn't participate in one of the strength sports I was doing.
That's okay.
Yeah, she's a ballerina. And she would never even attempt or want to attempt anything that we're doing. But she goes to them and she enjoys like seeing what's going on and see what's happening. And she's also never witnessed like a bad injury for me.
She could teach you how to stretch and whatnot, I would think. She's a ballerina.
Oh, yeah. Done some Pilates with her.
Okay.
The Pilates on my glute really helped my glute. Because for especially like girl Pilates, it's all like booty work. With that balance and all the internal stuff, I mean, it really I was almost the pump in like around that scar tissue was so crazy. I'd have to like sit down for a while because I'm like, oh my god, I can't keep doing that. How are these girls hanging out here for 30 seconds?
You ever see these hard balls that look like spikes that you kind of roll on? You ever use one of those? They hurt like
rolling is decent for it. Yeah, rolling is decent for it. I'd say for glutes, that's probably like the only success I've really had with rolling.
Okay.
Is in the glutes. A little bit kind of it's helped some with like overhead positioning and stuff like that too. If I get certain areas around my neck. I've had neck all over the years, there's been some injury that has set me back on my quest to going to Worlds.
Jeez.
You know, whether it's my neck or my back, my glutes, I've got like bulletproof feet at this point from we're training at my old gym before it moved, and then before that closed. The ground outside was awful. I mean,
Okay.
it was like a World War I battlefield or something. It was dangerous. And my feet and ankles would be so sore after every work. I mean, it was brutal. But then after a certain point, nothing could ever hurt my feet again. You know, once you do a yoke, you know, 3 sets of a yoke on that ground, you're for 6
Sure,
months,
man.
you're bulletproof, or you're
So
going to be
now,
in a wheelchair.
so now are you looking at shows this year or next year, or do you have anything on the docket?
So this year, I'll officially announce that I'm going to do a bodybuilding show this year. I've never done bodybuilding.
Wow. Okay.
I've really never had interest in doing bodybuilding,
Yep.
which I think for a lot of people, especially in the supplement world, is might be a little surprising. I didn't know really anything about bodybuilding besides like Olympia type of stuff
Sure.
until, you know, a few months ago. But just getting kind of more into it, I think the training, you know, it's going to sound. I think bodybuilding. I'll start by saying this. I think bodybuilding is the hardest sport there is. I think it's harder than basketball or football. I think it's the hardest one there is because it's the only sport where everything you do matters.
Of course.
Where what time did you wake up? You know, what did you eat today? When did you go to sleep? Have you done everything that you need to do to maximize what you're going to have on stage? Also, you're going to feel terrible for weeks at a time while you're cutting.
Yes.
And I think the training in the gym, though, is significantly easier than strongman. And like, even if you're pushing it really
Yes.
hard, there's just so much physical pain with strongman from the equipment that no amount of muscle burn could necessarily compare to that. You know, like it's not easy, but comparatively speaking, you know, it's fulfilling to do. You feel good about yourself when you're leaving. I think the risk of injury compared to strongman is also very low.
Yes.
And you know, I actually hadn't trained my legs for 7 or 8 months because I've got huge legs.
Okay.
Relatively, it's the only muscle I mean that's impressive are my quads and glutes. Not as much the hamstrings as it used to be. So it does feel kind of good for it to serve a purpose to grow my legs. Because in strongman, I mean, I had legs as strong as I needed them to be. Just didn't necessarily need to do them anymore.
Okay.
Focusing on the deadlift was so important. They're just kind of legs, but I don't really consider that legs.
Yeah, and if you could continue, I don't know if you're dieting now or if you're still in the low carbs, but that'll kind of, if you can keep that and just kind of cruise in a little bit. Obviously, you have to play with your diet a little bit, but
Yeah.
that's that's what I was doing myself. Low carb Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday medium. I'm sorry, Thursday, Friday, Saturday medium, and the high on Sunday when I was getting ready for a show.
Yeah. Like right now, my carbs are I guess it's a medium.
Okay.
I enjoy my workouts a lot more when I am eating carbs.
Oh, of course.
And I'm pretty fine cutting fat down. And so it's not that hard for me to do, you know, when you're low carb, you can eat a lot of great foods to be on an 1850 calorie diet. But your workouts kind of feel like crap.
Yes.
And so hitting like an 1850, for me, I've got to do a pretty serious deficit to really see progress. But doing like 1850 to 2000, really, my workouts feel great. Even if the foods I'm eating are sometimes bizarre, you know, like I like the good workout, especially like being on Crystal Pump and getting a sick, nasty pump makes it so much more worth it.
So have you have a show in sight? Or still waiting for the calendar or?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at the calendar and kind of see it'd be later in the year.
Okay.
There is an online one in I think it's like August or September or something for a channel that I follow on YouTube, the Mark's Max Muscle. He calls it the Mark's Max Muscle Classic or something he's doing.
Okay.
And I like his channel. I think that is that time of year is might be a good time, and it's not that serious that I would feel the need to. Because if I'm stepping on stage, kind of a mindset with strongman is that you can't really. I'll just say half-ass it. You know, like I try to think of the most eloquent way to put it. But
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
strongman, you have to show up and you have to do it. You know, if you have
Exactly.
to do, let's say it's a 550 deadlift for reps, well, you better deadlift 550. You know, you can't walk in and train thinking that you'll be fine deadlifting less than 550. You have to hit 550.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of this mindset of you have to do it. And so if I'm going to step on stage, I have to do it. And I have to look what I would perceive to be to the potential that, look as hard as I work. And I don't know necessarily the best way to put that. I guess I could have thought of something before the podcast where I planned something out. But just I want to make sure that I take it seriously because I went to my friend's show. He did a bodybuilding, which is the first bodybuilding show I'd ever been to. And first of all, I was shocked that so many people go to those.
Oh, yeah.
Because the cost of entry is pretty high.
It is, especially if you do multiple classes. Everybody does multiple classes nowadays.
Yes, I couldn't believe how many competitors were competing in 6+ classes. You know that they're spending $500. And this one guy competed in every single class in every single category. I don't know if he worked out. He looked horrible. It's kind of mean to say. I really don't know if he worked out.
Jeez.
When he walked out in the bodybuilding trunks, I was a little surprised. And then when he walked out in the classic trunks, I was a little surprised. Then he walked out in the swim trunks. I'm like, what is this guy doing? He paid for every class. He got last in all of them, obviously. But he was the only competitor in a couple of them, so he did go home with a trophy.
Yeah, but that's a running joke amongst all the bodybuilders. It's one thing if you're off, but it's another thing if, like you're saying, if it looks like, do you work out? It was just a bunch of your buddies saying, look, we'll give you $500 just to do it. A dare. We'll pay your entry fee and you dare. And it's kind of an insult to bodybuilders. But anyway, it's a whole nother story.
Yeah. It would not surprise me if it was on a dare.
Yeah.
And powerlifting has a similar problem because in powerlifting, you don't have to, there's no set weights. And so you can just show up.
Okay.
It could be some guy who's there to squat 900 pounds and then somebody's grandma who's there to squat the empty barbell with the collars on. Guess which one gets the louder crowd, by the way? It's always the grandma.
Oh, of course. The underdog, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. And almost everybody in the audience just doesn't care to be there. They're family members that got extorted for $10 entry. And I do a lot of announcing at powerlifting shows and strongman shows.
Okay.
And looking into the soulless eyes of the crowd during a meet can just be so painful sometimes.
Soulless eyes.
You'll crack a joke and you'll get a laugh from a spotter. It's not from somebody in the crowd.
You awake out there? Hello, folks. You awake out there?
Oh yeah, it's but I mean, the people who are listening have a great time. I try to be I'm both funny, but also you got to make sure that the meet goes. At the announcer, you actually have a surprising amount of responsibility to make sure that the meet actually runs smoothly.
Sure.
They're just dead eyes in the crowd. I've had the bodybuilding show for the most part. People were pretty engaged. I mean, bodybuilding fans, I've always kind of thought this, but bodybuilding, I feel like is not necessarily at the forefront of people's minds who go to the gym like it used to be.
Of course.
I feel like the bodybuilding fans can be pretty strange people. And so it was also in Lake City. I mean, I know that you've definitely driven through Lake City.
Yep.
It's like the Lake City locals are there. It's kind of an interesting atmosphere, but they love being there. I mean, they're going at it. I have to be fair. I think a strongman show in Lake City would also have a pretty active crowd. It's those small towns that really those things go well in. But I couldn't believe that so many people showed up and paid, $25, $35 or whatever it was to be there. How many competitors there were. I mean, it was way bigger than the competitions I usually go to.
Yeah.
And so now I'm thinking about, what if I put Crystal Pump here? Because all these people take pre-workout. At powerlifting and strongman shows, not necessarily.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just a shocking difference there. But anyway, I don't even remember where I was going there. I was talking about showing up in good shape.
So, Steve, let's segue into the brand here, because a lot of people are, they're like, "Oh, this is great. They're listening to this. I'm like, okay, what are they going to talk about this great brand here? So, tell us, when did you start the brand? Which product came first? Like, what was the impetus? Because obviously you were a supplement user. Was it, hey, I can do this myself, or like, what was the thought process behind it?
Yeah, man, that's a question that I can once again go on a 3-hour tangent with. But
all right,
as far
we'll
as
keep it 45 minutes.
What's that?
We'll keep it to 45 minutes.
45 minutes. Okay. We'll do a 45-minute version. The genesis of the brand, I would say, is that you kind of run into this point in lifting where I guess it'd almost be, I've used the word nihilistic in the past. Like you kind of stop, nothing matters except for consistency and showing up. It doesn't matter if I take any supplements. It doesn't matter If I'm trying to do an optimal workout, it doesn't matter if I'm trying to an optimal diet. It is what it is because of my genetics and my consistency. And you can kind of, I think a lot of people, after lifting for a long time, especially to get really deep in the information or the science or the growth science, whatever it is you get super deep into, you kind of realize that everything works, which means that nothing matters. And it can be a pretty poisonous mindset for being in the gym. And I think back on a time where that was not the case, where I cracked open my bottle of Jacked, or Jack 3D as other people call it,
Jeez, yeah.
and had the craziest workouts of my life, and times were simpler and better. And how can I bring that back for other people and make sure that they aren't in this same rut as me? And you really can't crack open an exported Turkish can of Jacked to get that same experience again.
Yep.
We're chasing the dragon, so to speak, to use a heroin addict phrase.
Sure.
We're chasing that first high of taking that crazy product, and you're never going to get it again because I don't even want that feeling anymore necessarily.
Yes.
But how could I bring something that gives that similar feeling to someone else with pre-workout?
Okay. Yep.
As far as the product itself, that's the genesis of the product. The idea to start something was because I wanted to make funny videos. And you can't, I'm not the type of person who's just has such an ego that I think I'm funny enough to make videos for no reason. And so you have to have something to do it for. I'm thinking, I'm like, do I have a brand? Like, what do I do? I said, well, then I think about my workouts have been pretty shitty. And I haven't taken pre-work because once you're into strength sports, pre-workouts can really be an inhibitor to your workout. And I guess I can get into that once we talk more about the product, but you really end up cutting them out. I cut them out, back when the original I think it was Mr. Hyde, the one that was really good.
I know I get confused, but Jekyll or Hyde, but yeah, I think it had DMAA and like 400 milligrams of calf and all sorts of craziness.
It felt crazy. I mean, it wasn't quite the step up of like from Explode to Jacked in 2009. But it was, that was a different product. That and Craig's were both insane products.
Yes.
And I stopped taking them because you really can't do a long powerlifting warm up, especially when you're kind of like a beginner to intermediate. You do a lot of warming up. You do what you see the older guys doing, and they warm up like crazy because they're in pain.
Yep.
I had the Tiger Balm on and all that. But when I'm on those products, your heart's beating out of your mouth, like it's, you feel awful, kind of awful when you're trying to do a focus for a heavy set. And you really couldn't do it on those products. And even I would say today on like modern hardcore products, it's very difficult to actually try to manipulate those for a strength training workout. And so I kind of, to bring that around to what I was originally trying to say before I sidetracked myself, is in the strength scene, how could I bring something to them that would work for what we're doing? How can you have something that works for 3 hours? How can you have something that feels very consistent? What ingredients actually feel good? What ingredients actually matter? Which ones just look good on the label? What do I care about? What do I not care about? What makes me feel shitty? How much of this can I do? How much of that? And then there's also just like industry standard type of stuff of like, okay, well, this is how much you do of that. Or research paper based, here's how much that is. And I tried out other products and kind of came to, here are the ingredients that I like. Here's the ones that I especially like when they're put together. The cost concerns for why certain things were refined and changed. Or replaced or gotten rid of. And then other times it's just from customers, like I had 5 grams of citrulline originally. And I would always just get messages from kids who'd be like, I'd buy it if it was 6 grams. I'm like, yeah, but it's got estrogen in it. Like, you don't really need 6 grams, and there's 50 milligrams of estrogen. And they're like, what's estrogen? Damn it.
Yeah, because
so, it's the
clinical dosage gets thrown around too much because, yes, we want a lot of citrulline, but again, a lot of studies show 4 grams works just as well as 6, 7, 8 grams sometimes.
Yeah, and citrulline's kind of an expensive ingredient because it's so heavy. You're using so much of it.
But for powerlifters, I'm not powerlifters, for strongman, Do you really want to focus on the pump though?
So, in a way, what I'm going to do now is
Okay.
take a step back because I feel like it's a fine time to address the name because that's come up both on the Final Scoop and Review Bros. And I think when I was in Stacked the first time is the name Crystal Pump.
Yep.
The word pump. Crystal
Okay.
Pump is first and foremost a brand. It
Okay.
is a lifestyle. It is more than a product. There's an idea of Crystal Pump.
Got it.
More beyond anything that could be a product. And that is the name and will always be the name. It could have 0 pump ingredients. It'd be named Crystal Pump because that's the brand. I came up with the name before I ever came up with the logo or the product. It rolls off the tongue. It's fun. In and of itself, I feel that it brings a certain attitude and energy.
And I'm assuming you were a Breaking Bad guy back in the day.
If anybody from Sony Digital is watching this podcast, it is purely incidental and fair use of the periodic table of elements and generic fonts.
Disclaimer.
Breaking Bad is also the only TV show that I've ever watched start to finish as it aired. You know, week to week.
Okay.
Yeah, week to week when it debuted, because we loved Malcolm in the Middle.
Yes.
And so my parents and I are like, oh, great, it's the dad from Malcolm in the Middle. And so we tuned in the opening week, and then we watched it every week for the next like 7 years or whatever it was.
And that was definitely not Hal. Totally different character.
Completely different. I mean, the range of acting is insane.
Yes.
And because Hal's one of the better characters on the show. He's probably the best character. And for that to be the inspiration for us to watch is kind of hilarious. Because most of the funny moments in Breaking Bad are pretty unintentional. But Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, as far as non-comedy shows, I mean, it's a pretty obvious 1 and 2. I'd probably have to put The Sopranos number 1. But the action in Breaking Bad, and they're totally different shows. The first time I watched The Sopranos was after Breaking Bad, and I hated it because I wanted the action of Breaking Bad is, it varies from being a 6 to 10 out of 10. The action in The Sopranos ranges from being a 1 to, a few episodes might get to a 6 or 7.
Yes.
But it's really not action-packed. It's a character show.
Yes.
But it's phenomenal.
Okay.
But yes, I'm a big fan of Breaking Bad. And but yeah, I thought of the name, then I thought of the logo, and I won't go too deep into how I thought of the logo, except to say that it's fair use of the periodic table of elements and generic font.
Love it.
But I drew it on a note card and sent it to one of my friends who does graphic design. I said, hey man, can you make this logo for me? And then I was like, okay, well now I need a formula. And as I'm coming up with the formula, I make shirts and I sell the shirts right away. The merch is actually very popular.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's. I think I could probably sell just merch and honestly probably make more money. Kind of an easier audience, but I don't want to be a merch brand. But then I came up with the formula. One of my friends is a huge pre-workout addict. I mean, he was doing a scoop and a half of Excelsior. She's an addict. And he put me on to the TJ with Fitness Deal
News. Fitness Deal News.
Yeah,
I know TJ very well.
Fitness Deals News or Fitness Deal Reviews to his channel, which put me on to a bunch of different products. And then he put me onto products like Assassin, Excelsior, Crack, all those brands that I had never heard of. He put me onto, and then obviously TJ reviews all those products. And so it gives me an idea of like, okay, well, like here's what I took. Let me hear him describe what's in it and what that feels like. Then I bought raw ingredients and made unflavored raw pre-workout, which tastes repulsive.
Were you using lion's mane at that time? Were you using raw lion's mane at that time? Oh God, yeah, forget that.
So it looked like fat bastard shit. It was disgusting. I mean, it was awful. And that's where I found out both that lion's mane is my favorite ingredient and the worst.
Mine too. Yes.
Yeah.
I agreed.
Yeah.
Full agreed.
Yes. I love lion's mane. It's one of the few ingredients that you can feel a lot on its own.
And you got a whopping dose of a gram, which I actually love. I mean, I see a lot. They tout it. It's 250, 300. And I'm like, I understand it's hard to mask because it sucks as a flavor, But if you're gonna do it, just dose it to the max. 1,000, 1,500,
Yeah.
2,000.
Yeah. When it came to dosing, man, I went based on nootropics. I don't think experts are the right nootropic reviewers.
Yep.
Watching a lot of reviewers, because I also watch reviews on individual ingredients, and it was always 1 gram for lion's mane. Most of the research is on 1 gram of lion's mane, being the most potent dosage. And of the, I don't know, Assassin's lion's mane, right?
I'm sorry?
Is it Assassin and Hooligan have lion's mane? Anyway, but they're at
Yeah,
full
one of them
gram.
does, yeah.
Yeah. And that's, so that becomes like a standard, because I think that all the pollen products have great dosages. But it's also, most of its dosages are also the research dose.
Yes.
Like the research most effective, like highest researched effective dose for pretty much everything.
Correct.
And so it makes sense that those go in line too. I think he's higher in a few of them as well, but I love the lion's mane. It tasted horrible. DMAE also tastes pretty strange on its own. That I actually really liked how that feels on its own.
Yes. Okay.
It's got a very metallic flavor.
So you go to NutriCost?
Especially-
Like where are you getting the gross from? NutriCost, or where are you going?
I was doing off from the raw supplement. Is it True Nutrition?
Okay.
They're on
Yeah,
Amazon and I think it's True Nutrition, right? It's been
Yeah,
so
I
long
think
since I
so.
bought raw ingredients, because they last for, you got way more than you could ever use.
Oh yeah, you get a bag and a half, pound and a half, and lion's mane that'll last you 6 months.
Yeah, and the lion's mane is also pretty sensitive to the humidity here in Florida, so that it would have lasted me years.
Yep.
But I couldn't even salvage it. I couldn't break it off with a knife.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
the hardest product I've ever had. But yeah, just mixing the raws, getting something I liked. Even though it didn't matter with my target audience being strength athletes, pump isn't particularly important. But I wanted to make sure that I was hitting the 3 things that a pre-workout can hit on. Focus, energy, and pumps. I'd say, I'll put pumps separate from performance. Performance is kind of associated with pumps, I would say. But those 3 together, I feel like are important for one blend, because one of the things I realized too, going through other products, is that most products nowadays don't do all 3. They do 2 at best. And then they want you to buy a third, another product to get all 3.
It's never trifecta. Never.
No. I can also tell now that part of that is because the scoop is gigantic when you do that. Crystal Pump's a 23-gram scoop. That's pretty hefty.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to hit all 3, even though it's not that important. It's also one of those things that when you take pre-workout, you like to feel a pump. It's just, and we do rep work and stuff in our workouts, so it's nice to feel a pump.
Definitely. Okay.
But it's not like, if I added any more pump to it, I don't think anybody who does strength sports would notice. For one. But yeah, bringing that back to the name of the product, it is probably most centered in on focus, because performance-wise, I think that's what helps the most with strength sports.
Yep.
But that combined with the energy, the energy is pretty specific as well. But the pumps are just something, it could be named Crystal Pump and have no pump ingredients in it, and I would still name it Crystal Pump. It's the name of the product, It's iconic to me at this point.
So is Robic the only one, or do you get a lot of questions on that saying where'd the name come from, or?
Well, not necessarily where the name come from, but it being like, oh, surprised there's not more pump in it for it being Crystal Pump. It's only from people who are super into
in the know.
Yeah, you have to be really in the know, honestly, because most kids just look at citrulline. They really don't know what anything else is for pumps. But Robic said that in Shane's review on Stack. He didn't necessarily say it, despite being Crystal Pump, it is not lacking in stimulants or in nootropics.
Yep.
And then the review bros are like, oh yeah, I would have expected maybe a little bit more pump with pump in the name. But I mean, that's not good. I might add, I have been thinking that when I update the formula, figuring out the best way to add something without making the scoop too heavy, and with it being impactful and not just for the label.
Yep. Okay.
So let's just something that looks cool.
So let's be
It's
honest
something
here.
that actually makes a difference.
We discussed the lion's mane at a gram, okay, and you've got fruit punch and blue raz, or I think those are the flavors if I remember correctly. How does it really
Correct.
taste? Let's be honest here, because people are probably wondering, how does it taste? Should we warn the people, or does it taste good?
So the blue raz, I will warn you that probably half the people who buy it hate the aftertaste. They hate the aftertaste.
Okay.
They don't just dislike it; they think it's disgusting. The other half of people think that it tastes delicious, and so it's
Okay.
difficult for me to decide if I should warn people or if I should say nothing, because obviously
Yeah.
the blue raz being blue, despite it being completely coincidental, there is a connection to Breaking Bad there,
Of course.
despite it
Yeah. The
being
blue rock.
completely coincidental. Um, so more people buy. I mean, it's a pretty drastic difference in sales for the blue versus the red. The fruit pump tastes
Interesting.
amazing, and
Okay.
so it's kind of awkward that one of them tastes really good. I think for fruit punch flavoring, it tastes really good. But the blue raz is a little lacking. I'll say that. You can definitely taste the lion's mane. Yeah.
Okay. And I appreciate that. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but
Oh
I'm
no,
of the
you should. I
generation.
would warn people if you didn't ask.
Because again, Robick's very transparent with that. He'll tell you flat out, look, my dosage is a great product, will blow your socks off, but a lot of them they taste is not there. And if you're looking for something nowadays, I hear these kids saying they're sipping on their pre-workouts. I'm like, you don't sip on a pre-workout, you sip on a BCAA or a protein shake. Who cares what the flavor tastes like? As long as you're not literally gagging to get it down, it's really what it comes down to. Just 30 seconds, take it and go.
What's funny is that for me, back in like that 2009 to 2014 span, you wanted the one that tasted
Yeah.
awful. The
Yep.
worse it tasted, the better it's going to be. The more questionable the proprietary blend, the better it's going to be. Um,
Yeah.
that was the time. The original Jack tasted like sweat. It was disgusting. I mean, that was the worst tasting flavored supplement I've ever had. Was the original Jack. It was awful. Then they did end up improving the flavor. I mean, it still didn't taste great. But those products were horrible. And so to
Yeah.
me, there's something nostalgic about tasting. I maybe that's why I love the blue raz flavor for Crystal Pump. But like with Assassin, like I could definitely taste that. When I drank Assassin, I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna work. I can taste that it's gonna work.
You taste the harsh ingredients. Yeah.
Yes. And then I felt absolutely insane for a very long time. I probably should have gone straight to a full scoop. But it still wasn't like the first time I drank Jack though. That was like a life-changing experience.
Yeah, I was a mesomorph guy. I never did jacked. I never did driven or craze or any of that stuff. Like the first entrance for me was mesomorph when DMAA was still around.
Yeah. For
So,
me, I tried it, and it's part of the origin story for the brand. Is we had tried. There was White Flood, there was Super Pump.
oh yeah,
There were a ton of products, but NO Explode of those products was probably the best one. Going to the gym, get a good pump, you felt some good energy. I felt good on NO Explode. It's my favorite one of those
yeah,
products. It mixed horrible back then. Really unnatural foaming.
yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah, I remember that now.
it like specifically directed you to start with a spoon. It was a really weird product. And I went to go buy some. It was at a vitamin shop in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
And the guy working there, he was like, "Really want the NO Explode?" He's like, I got to tell you, man, what you really want to take is this. And he reaches down to the bottom shelf and pulls up this homemade looking tiny canister,
Oh
and
jeez.
it says Jacked on it. It's a
Oh
big warning and a
yep.
university studied, big in your face. And I'm like, that looks like shit. I don't want to take that. And he goes, trust me, this is the best thing you'll ever take. I said, nah, man, I just want to take the NO Explode. He says, let me break this down for you. He says, look at these two containers. Which one do you think pays more for marketing? This one or the big red bottle? I said, oh, the red one. And he said, which one looks like it contains more filler? This little jar or that big tub? I said, oh, that one probably does have less filler. And he says, trust me, you want to buy this one. I was like, fine, I'll try it. And I go home. I look in the back. It says, do not exceed 3 scoops. So I put 3 scoops in. And
Jesus.
I'm drinking it, and then I'm gripping the steering wheel. You know, it's it was totally different than anything I had
Yeah,
ever had in my life, and I didn't sleep that night,
sleep for
and
a
I couldn't
day, I'm
get enough of
sure.
it. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy, and even when other products were better, I still bought Jack. I just thought it was the best product ever. I loved the label. I loved the way it felt. I loved that when I would share it with a friend that, one of my friends, he tore his sleeves off when we were driving to the gym because he just had to do something. Um, and it was just totally life-changing. And when it came to designing the actual visual, to me, I think of something like Jack, and that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's the best label ever. You can't replicate it. There's nothing that you can do to bring that to the table again. But
No.
I think about what I liked about that label. It was simple. It was clean.
Yep.
It had a look of danger to it that was subtle, And how
Yep.
could I bring that to my label? And so once again, I drew it on a note card and sent it to my friend. I wanted to be informative as well. And so I have the key dosages of key ingredients that I thought would matter to people.
Yep.
Which has only since then confused people as to what's actually in it. Frustratingly, because they'll be like, no citrulline. I'm like, well, it's just not on the front of the label, dick. Like, it's just turn it around. There's like 14 ingredients. Like, it's not just these 5. But that's I wanted that simplicity. Something that when you're looking at the rack, because especially now, everything is very cluttered.
Yep.
And every label I see, I would say that almost every label I see nowadays reminds me of like the, generally speaking, I think the SuperHuman label is what things are emulating now.
You say superhuman, alpha lion, or what do you mean superhuman? You're just using it, superhuman
SuperHuman
as
the
a
brand.
general term?
Yeah, like
Okay.
that type of label or the alpha lion label.
Yeah, okay.
That's the type of thing I see now where there's a lot of like, it's very in your face. It's almost always a black container now.
Yep.
There tends to be a holographic drawing of some kind. How can I catch somebody's eye trying to be bigger and better than that? Or could I make something that stands out kind of on its own merit?
Yeah,
The
it's
visually
tough.
speaking, that's
It's
what I was
tough
going
because
for.
that's how the industry's changed a little bit, where labels were more simpler or simplistic, and like you're saying, though, I don't know how I feel good or bad with someone just being bright and flashy and a million different colors, because again, people, I guess you tend to grab for it just to at least touch it, look at it, whether it's the foil or the holograms. But sometimes people don't realize that yes, you're paying for the label. You're not really paying for the product.
Yeah. And I do think that with protein, I don't think I would be successful with a restrained simple label. I think that would look ghetto. I think the
Yeah,
mindset is very different with pre-workout.
the smaller tub. I can see how the analytics or the gesture of it on a smaller bottle than a big 2-pound tub.
Yeah, it would just look a little silly. Maybe I could pull off an inspired look on a protein tub, but I feel like I think of my mindset when I'm buying pre-workout or buying protein. I definitely want something that looks legitimate when I'm taking protein.
Yep.
I don't necessarily care how legitimate it is. I care how good it feels, and that it doesn't have a proprietary blend for my pre-workout.
Bingo. Bingo.
Because then I can really analyze it before I take it, and I can maybe get a nice feeling from it.
So now, do you get any flack because of the caffeine? Because I remember it's got like
Yeah,
250 combined, where people, oh,
yeah.
it's
So
too
it's
light.
150 anhydrous and 150 dicaffeine malate,
Okay.
and people
But then you got
don't
Araya,
seem.
and you got some Yohimbi or Yohimbine in there as well. Some other kind of amp your socks up a little bit.
Yeah, and it used to be N-iso, which is why the synephrine dose is so low. Is that I guess taking things back is that I had another manufacturer who made the product originally.
Okay.
And I don't know, does it seem like a solid time to just kind of talk about the history of actually getting the product to market?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I see. So originally, just trying to figure the only company that would do low MOQ, low minimum
Domains.
orders
Yep.
was NutriCap. And
Yeah.
it is a crazy turnaround time. The customer service left more than a little bit to be desired.
They've
And
had
also
their
the
issues
prices
over the
were pretty
years.
prohibitive. What's
They've
that?
had their issues. They've had their issues over the years. Leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, it was a 16-week turnaround time. It's the number one issue that I had.
Okay.
And then it would also take them 24 hours to respond to my emails. And it got to the point that I'm just waiting. And I had messaged every company that I could find on Google that did white label supplements, private manufacturing,
Mhm.
whatever. And everybody wanted at least 500 units,
Okay.
which to me now I would have liked somebody does 500. Now I did 1,000, but um, nobody would do it. And I just got to the point that I'm asking NutriCap, I'm like, send me the payment info and I will pay you to start this
Yeah.
process. Just send me the wire info. And then this other company messaged me back and they were like, are you still interested? And they had a 6-week turnaround time. So I worked with them.
Sweet.
And they didn't have any issues with any of the ingredients that I wanted to put in. I had a N-iso in there originally instead of synephrine.
Mhm.
And
Isopropyl? You say you mean isopropyl?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
N-isopropyl, what is it? N-isopropyl norepinephrine.
Yep, okay.
And 50 milligrams of that I really like the feeling of.
Yeah.
It added to kind of the stems and crystal pump in general. What I wanted was something that didn't give me anxiety, didn't make me feel like, because it's not every time, but like 1 in 5 times that I take a lot of caffeine anhydrous. Like if I drank more than one, I don't know, rain is really popular in strongman. So like if I drank more than one rain, maybe I would get anxiety in my chest, or something like that. Like just every once in a while, it
Yeah,
ruins your workout. The whole thing's ruined because
of
now you
course.
can't really do a heavy lift. You can't. It just ruins everything about it. So I
Yep.
wanted something that did not punch you like that much caffeine anhydrous. And by doing a
Sure.
really high amount of dicaffeine malate, um, 150, nobody does a similar blend. And honestly, there's probably some uh, science that is probably not ideal, but I really like the way it feels with 150. And I'd actually be curious what it would feel like with an even more drastic. Like if I did
Yeah.
150, 250, would that actually enhance what I want? I actually never tried that.
It's true. Now you bring that up, I don't think I've ever seen it match. It's usually like 75-25 or something along those lines, or it might be 250 and 100 or yeah, but I don't think I've
Yeah,
ever seen that. Now that you bring it up.
yeah. And I think that that's probably what gives Crystal Pump such a unique feeling is that high ratio. It's a very high ratio.
Mhm.
Um, because it lasts for 3 hours of steady energy.
Yep.
And after the fact, I wish I could say that I was smart enough to think of it beforehand. And I'm such a calculated, intelligent, well planned out supplement company owner, and not somebody who kind of just realized later on. But I mean, most of the ingredients take 30, 45, some of them an hour to start working.
Mhm.
And so when you've got a lot of caffeine anhydrous, you want to start working very early. And so you're not getting the benefit of the other ingredients until the caffeine's already on the way down.
Yep.
So by having so much dicaffeine malate, Crystal Pump's kind of odd because it takes like half an hour for you to really enjoy the feeling of it.
Mhm.
Um, but the benefit of that is you're really feeling the energy, the euphoria, and all of that at the same time that you're now able to take advantage of the pump ingredients, the focus ingredients are hitting now. And I feel like it's the melody of feelings that you get from Crystal Pump is unique to the product.
Hashtag trademark melody of feelings right now.
Yeah, I'll come up with something better than that if I want to trademark it. But like I told you earlier, I go off the dome for everything. Um, but yeah, I was pretty happy with the manufacturer. There was some inconsistencies with like the first batch I got. My friends called it a no nonsense seal because as you unscrewed the cap, it would pull off the
I've seen it. Yep.
seal, and it was a terrible seal. And so, being in Florida, driving down to an event in South Florida just to heat in the car would solidify the product because the
Oh,
increased
geez.
humidity goes through the seal.
Yep.
And it still works. I mean, it didn't really. I still think that hard product works. Um, however, I weigh it out, and it's actually a lot more than you would expect it to be, which is why I think people think it loses potency.
Okay.
But when I weighed it out, I mean, it was like, because back then I did 2 scoops that were, it was 11.5 grams a scoop. And now I do a full 23-gram scoop, or whatever I'm not a math whiz. I don't think that adds up to 23, but
Yeah. Okay.
I think it does. But I had to do 3 scoops to get to 23 grams.
Wow. Okay.
When it was hard. So that was an issue. And then other times it'd be like turnaround issues. And then I made an order in May of last year and paid for it. And I keep getting it'll be ready soon. It'll be ready soon. And then it was, it's in the warehouse ready to ship. It's like, great, it's July. And luckily I'd started making an order pretty far in advance. And then I never hear from them again.
Oh, geez.
And it was right after Review Bros did their video for me. And so I sold out a product that video did very well for me.
Yeah. Okay.
And I sold out right away. And then I didn't have any product for months.
Oh, geez.
And it was so difficult to find a manufacturer because a lot of the ingredients that are in Crystal Pump are less traditional.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is not, they always like, oh, you want to do a white label blend of something that you would never take yourself, basically. And so I keep on like looking for things, but I was able to get in contact. I bet you this is going to get mixed reviews, even potentially from you. I've never heard anybody bring up this name, but I got in contact with Aaron Singerman. Okay. And he put me in contact with the manufacturer. And this guy is great.
His manufacturer's high tech, Jared Wheat, unless it's somebody different.
It's Joey Ventrilo with Lightning.
No, never heard of him. Okay.
Because he said that somebody who could fulfill my order, it's a friend of his. He's down in Broward County.
Yep.
I think it's Broward. It's Coconut Creek. I think it's Broward.
Okay.
And so I was able to get in contact with them. The minimum order was still, for me, pretty high, but not unobtainable. 1,000 units isn't unobtainable.
Yeah.
And by ordering so much, the price
hurts up front, though. Still hurts up front, though. 1,000 still hurts up front, though.
100%. Yeah, that one took some talking about a conversation with my wife about perhaps a little longer than about me competing. And so his turnaround times were good. He's very legitimate. He's much more legitimate than the last guys that I was working with.
Okay, good.
The weird thing about getting ghosted by them is that I'm pretty hyper aware of scams because I've done watch trading, and there's a ton of scammers in watch trading. Okay. So I'm pretty hyper aware of scams. I mean, if I was scamming somebody, I wouldn't do it for an order because that was just 150 or 200 units or something, and I paid on Amex, so I just did a chargeback.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine that either they got arrested or scammed somebody else because the website was down. There's no more website.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a whole bizarre. I mean, I don't think I was the one being scammed. I think that something happened there.
Yeah, because again, like you said, grand scale, you're the small fish on the whole sales route there.
It's only a few $1,000s, like it's not.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to scamming, like people want to rope you in and do a big scam.
Yeah, exactly.
They would want to get me for 1,000 units. They would want to get me for 5,000 units. Like not a 50, 150, 200, whatever it was. It wasn't a big order. But Joey's great. I've been really happy with it. I was able to go down, see the facility, picked up product in person. He met me there after hours because it took me so long to get down there, and my Jetta broke down on the way.
Jeez.
And it's a crappy car.
That's awesome though, because not many supplement owners actually go and visit the facility. It kind of breaks my heart a little bit that they trust the manufacturers to do the right job, that it's not a bathroom situation or bathtub situation. So kudos to you though, for being able to see the manufacturer. They're local, like somewhat local, but good for you.
Yeah. It's like 4.5 hours. I didn't take into account the traffic. But it was definitely worth the drive. I mean, I'd go down again to see that it's a legitimate facility. There's the lab coats and all that crap. And he gave me a tour of the facility after hours and showed me everything. Told me about himself. He's a cool dude. I like him. And so it's nice to have that relationship with my manufacturer.
So on the flip note, though, then you also have a sleep aid. So is that to bring you down off the crystal meth you have?
Yeah, you used a different word there at the end. But you know what's funny is a friend of mine told me that he's like, yeah, one of my buddies used to be addicted to meth, and he says that pre-workout is way stronger than meth. He says it's way more extreme. The extreme was the word he used.
Okay.
And I was like, man, that's crazy. I don't know if I believe that, but then I think about it, I'm like, I guess like the skin crawling, the DMAA and all that stuff. I mean, I guess it's pretty intense. Maybe I've never done meth. At least I don't think I have. Maybe some of those back alley pre-workouts may or may not have. I don't know.
Do you know a reviewer, Garage Gym Homie? You ever hear of him?
Yeah.
Ask him.
Yeah, he's got a backstory as an addict, right?
Yes, he'd be able to tell you the similarities. I'm sure if there is.
I hadn't thought about him being a resource to confirm or deny if that's true from that guy.
If you hit him up, he's one of the most nicest, open, like doesn't hide anything. He'd tell you flat out.
He's super nice on your podcast.
Great guy.
Yeah. I always enjoy him as a guest. Man, I get lost every time I tell a story. I just gave a history of the brand, a brief history of the brand.
Yeah.
And bringing the product back with the Lightning product, the Orion is definitely higher quality than before. The Yohimbe is higher quality. I actually reduced the Yohimbe. It used to be 2.5 milligrams. And I brought it down to 1.5 just because it was a little intense. Some people hate Yohimbe.
It's a love-hate. It's one of those products. I love it. I mean, I love the swamp ass. I love the runny nose. I love that stuff.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. But some people, it would have been, I think, a little intense for some of my core audience who already liked the product. I also knew that the improved potency of the Orion was going to maybe rub a few people the wrong way, because Orion is a pretty intense rush. But with the higher quality, you also get the better euphoria. But he didn't want to use an ISO because it's kind of a darker gray area as far as ingredients go, I guess.
Yes.
And so we just swapped it for synephrine. I've never used synephrine. So that's to kind of explain the complaint of the 15 milligrams of synephrine. It's very low because for an ISO, I was happy with that dosage. For synephrine, it's very low.
See, I don't remember
any research. I just swapped it. I needed product.
Yeah,
so it's just a mental lapse of not researching what I should change the synephrine equivalent dose to.
Because I don't know if ISO's on the WADA list or one of the lists, I think. So it's that, like I said, it's almost like grayish a little bit. It's not banned or anything, but it's gray in some areas.
Yeah, and I guess it's been a prescription drug in the past.
Okay.
Which is something that's like, and he didn't want to mess with it. He's not a dark gray area guy. Got it. And I just needed product. He's the only person who actually responds to my texts and emails. It's such an it's unbelievable how unreliable this industry is. So if anybody wants to start a manufacturing business, if you just respond to somebody's emails, you're already really going to be up the ladder of desirable manufacturers because people don't respond to your emails.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. That's one of the things I hear from all the manufacturers, I should say, the companies like yourself, is that they get ghosted, and then basically what lures them in to do the business is they respond to my text within an hour, they respond to my emails within 2 hours. I can call them at 9:00 at night. So it all gets back to customer service and quality.
Yeah, like honestly, I don't know that even if I got product for a little bit cheaper, if I would switch manufacturers, just I'm very happy with the communication. I've been to the facility. I know it's a very sure thing for me. I'm happy with the product that I've received after an order. I don't. It would take a lot for me to switch. I just don't see myself. I would have to be a bigger company. Honestly, I'm a pretty small fish. But I feel like I was answering it totally different.
Are you working on anything else right now? Somebody did ask me if you were working on anything else to take a look forward to.
It's for me. First and foremost, I've got to sell Crystal Pump. Crystal Pump is what's going to drive the brand. It's going to bring in the people who want other products. Because obviously, when it comes when I'm looking at other brands, a huge advantage that they have is for increased cart value. Because when you're buying pre-workout, you usually want to buy, I want to buy some protein. Great, a hydration supplement. I'd love to take this. I've seen creatine. Let me buy some creatine. There's a lot of different ways they can get. It's not unusual for somebody to spend $250.
Exactly.
Nobody is going to buy 6 bottles of Crystal Pump to hit that same carb value. And the other problem is that they buy 6 bottles of Crystal Pump, I'm not going to see them for 6 months.
Yeah.
But if they're buying 5 products to get that $250, they might buy it next month. They might buy it 3 weeks from now. They might come back next week because they forgot, oh yeah, you know what? I also want to get some EAAs. And there's just so many other opportunities. But for me, kind of staying on brand with the goofiness, with the people who like what I have, with the people I know, the Crystal Crusaders, I call them. The first one I'll list, this is going to sound ridiculous, is a sexual performance pill. Like Ejaculoid by Goliath Labs, I think is the funniest product ever made.
Okay.
I think that there's nothing, no one has ever come up. When it comes to iconic names, Ejaculoid is on that list. No high schooler has not gone to the back of a GNC or of a vitamin shop, looked through those things and not been like, what the hell is Ejaculoid? And so I think that's hilarious. And it's a product that'd be cheap to make. A competitor Ejaculoid with major load. Those products are just really hilarious. And I feel like some sort of gas station pills would really be in line with the brand. And I think by that being my first answer of products in the works is definitely going to lose respect for the large number of listeners who are up to this point. This guy's really going to release Crystal Spunk. It's his second product. But it's there's a high likelihood that that's the next product. But when it comes to things that I really like to do,
so wait, hold on. So is this on paper yet, or is it still in the brain? Like
it's
formula?
still in the brain. Like the logo is pretty straightforward. Crystal Spunk is hilarious. I might even add some more to it. I don't want to, change the age restrictions on the show by talking about the other things I might do with the naming or anything like that. But I don't think it would. But it's I think it'd be hilarious. It'd be hilarious to make videos for. I think it would get people who don't necessarily care about a medium to low stem pre-workout to go to the website and buy it. And just something that could be kind of a meme, because people really meme gas station pills. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen those memes. People love to talk about.
I know what you're talking about. That little grab the pill pack when you're checking out the gas station. But I don't think I've ever seen memes on them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Stinger, White Rhino. People make memes about gas station pills, or as they're called in a lot of the memes, or that I'll call them in the memes, penis roids.
No, I got some homework tonight.
I know you took this in the direction you did not want. But,
I love it.
that to me it fits the brand. I think it's hilarious when it comes to Christmas and birthdays, like giving stocking stuffers. A hilarious gift to give to somebody are these pills. They're not that expensive.
Yep.
It always gets a laugh from somebody just to receive them. You'll get a laugh in a text message once they use them. It's funny.
But the thing is okay, is to actually promote it though, not as a gag gift though, because if it really works, yes, it's a gag. It's a gag, but it's not a gag gift. It's a gift that works, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The thing is though, the fact that it works and what it does, I think I have a hard time believing there's a serious audience that really wants a semen volumizer. Like I think it's kind of a gag in and of itself. Like Ejaculate, like we buy it for each other as a stocking stuffer. It's just really funny to give as a gift. That gives some major load or some Ejaculoid.
Do you know what the most popular? Not a lot of people know this, and you can look it up after the show. What the most popular semen volumizer is? It's a supplement.
Zinc?
No, I mean you're on the same kind of path though.
Trying to think of a zinc supplement.
No, it's the most researched ingredient ever in the last 30 years.
Most research creatine?
Yes.
No, really?
People don't realize that. Yeah, you look it up. I mean, it's not going to be like triple, double, and triple, but like if you're trying to get your wife pregnant and you're just trying to increase it, you supplement with creatine. So add that to your sperm bank capsules or whatever you want to do there.
Yeah. So the Crystal Spunk. But when it comes to like serious products that I'd like to do, I'd actually like to do. I don't see anybody doing it, and I imagine it's because people don't buy it. Is I really like highly branched cyclic dextrin.
I love it too. I think it's great. But that's the thing.
I read an article years ago about highly branched cyclic dextrin. It made sense to me. You
Yep.
know, the gastric emptying process, all that stuff made total sense. And I was like, oh, okay, great. And I kind of don't care about research beyond the the baseline of that. You know, it's one of those things that once you hear it once, you kind of don't care about anything else. Because
Yep.
then I went and I bought Glycofuse. There used to be a few products for it. But Glycofuse by Gaspari is the only, I think they're the only product left of highly branched cyclic dextrin. Because everybody makes like a dextrin, they'll use dextrose, or they'll use waxy maize or some combination thereof. But almost nobody does highly branched cyclic dextrin. It mixes very poorly, very poorly. But when I'm training or competing, I felt a real difference taking highly branched cyclic dextrin.
Yeah. Because I know Pollen has one. I think All American EFX. I don't know what they use, but they have a carb source as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like the straight HBCD is pretty tough to find nowadays. It's just not popular. I don't think. I think that people just don't want to. I think it's probably expensive to get made.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what it is, you wouldn't look to buy it. You know.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you want that, it's always that. Do you take it before? Do you take it after? You know, and again, it's a supplement that a lot of people get because, like you said, people drop $250 on a product on something that they want. They want a pre-workout, a BCAA. You know, they don't think about that extra. Okay, I need that carb source. I'd rather just have a banana or something else.
Yeah, yeah, and like candy is really popular in powerlifting and strongman. People just like to eat candy.
Yeah, I
but
see that.
From the article that I read promoting HBCD, it talks about how candy has a very high, like sugar is a very high particle count. And by having a high particle count, even though once it's in your small intestines, it's going to get to your bloodstream quickly, it takes a long time to actually empty from your stomach because of the high particle count. And so by eating the candy, it's less ideal than having the lower glycemic, higher gastric emptying HBCD. And so to me, I was like, oh, that makes total sense. And sometimes you don't, I mean, eating a bunch of candy when you're competing, one, it feels oxymoronic. You know, you don't feel like an athlete when you're eating a bunch of Sour Patch Kids. And two, it kind of hurts your stomach. You know, like it's not the easiest thing to do. But when I would drink Glycofuse, I felt amazing. You know, could it have been a placebo? I don't know, but I felt amazing drinking Glycofuse. In competition day, that is something I think about quite a bit when it comes to products and even Crystal Pump. You know, on a competition day, you cannot take Jacked. You cannot take. I mean, you can't really take Total. I'll just use a generic product. Total War is actually very popular at Strongman.
I could see that
because of Brian Shaw. I don't know how many people buy Brian, because Brian Shaw has his own company now. I actually don't know how many people buy his pre-workout. And it's actually kind of hilarious if you look at the price difference versus ingredient difference from his standard to his premium. It's outrageous. Like it's actually pretty hilarious.
Speaking of Strongman, to divert the conversation here, did you ever see the Hulu special where the four guys are going around all over doing the competitions? It's Brian Shaw. It's
yeah, that was on History Network.
Oh, it's History. Okay, I saw it on Hulu, but I thought it was great. I wish they would have brought it back, but they toured all over the countries and did all the different strongman cut the four guys.
Yeah, it was Brian Shaw, Nick Best, Eddie Hall, and Robert Oberst.
There you go. Yep.
And it is actually pretty funny. So in the strongman world, a lot of people hate Brian Shaw.
He's just a freak of nature. Whatever, 6'8", 500 pounds, or 400 something pounds. He's a freak of nature.
Yeah, I've got a picture with him. It looks pretty embarrassing, but and because it's also a candid photo, so it's even worse.
Can't look any worse than the one that's floating around with him and Jay Cutler, back when Jay was competing here. Oh no, it's Sean Roden. I'm sorry, Sean Clarita. There's one with Brian Shaw and Sean Clarita.
Yeah, and that's brutal. But it's kind of he's from an era like when he was first coming up, just from like an athlete and sports perspective, the guys that were, if you're at the top of your sport, you act like Peyton Manning, you act like Kobe Bryant. There's a certain attitude that everybody from sports in the 2000s talks like, right? It's pretty cliche. It's very sterile. And that's the image that Brian Shaw has always cultivated for himself. And so he's a very boring character in the world of strongman, and he wins, which is an awful combination for getting people to like you.
Yeah, but I want to stop here. I don't know if I've actually seen anybody besides maybe Eddie that is like flamboyant, because when I think of strongman, I think a lot of like not the older, but the guys from like Iceland and
Yeah, they're
Greenland.
usually European.
Yeah, the European, and that these guys are not, chuckles or comedians and stuff either.
No, it's Europeans are pretty serious. They're not
Yeah.
particularly funny people. When they are funny, it's often unintentional. And I mean, some of the winners are scary. Like I think Vasil Vyatsyuk is actually a pretty intimidating guy.
Yeah.
He's from
Okay.
Ukraine. He got shot like 9 times or something. He's like, they weren't trying to hit me. It's an accident. I'm like, I don't know
Just
about
only a
that.
flesh wound.
Yeah, and when he's competing, he's just
Yeah.
it's just terrifying looking. And then there's Brian, who's like a friendly big guy. But Eddie's a character. I hate Eddie Hall.
Okay.
I can't stand Eddie Hall. I can't stand Robert Overs. They're both on the show together, so it's a bad combo. But kind of 2 different reasons. Robert Overs, to me, is a nobody who made a big name for himself with his personality.
Yeah.
No idea how he ended up on Joe Rogan, claiming that he could have won World's Strongest Man if he won. These ludicrous claims that are far and outside of the realm of possibility for him. But it's a good show. So I'll take it back to say it is a good show. The challenges that they did, I thought, were very unusual. They were not within they were not within my expectations. They subverted my expectations.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
in this case was a good thing.
Yes.
Because, and also their interactions together, they're all friends together, so they were funny together.
Exactly.
I'm kind of surprised there wasn't more to that. They pick up way worse shows than that.
Yeah, I don't know if they just got too injured, because it seems like every it was either Nick or Robert were getting injured. It seemed like every episode.
Yeah, Nick got injured every episode. And if I had to guess, I would guess that Rob was faking injuries, but that'd be my guess. I really don't like him. Yeah, it's and I don't feel like I have to like hold back and just because he's way stronger and more successful than I've ever been. I'll still say I did the things he talks himself into a corner with that stuff. I'll still say it.
Yeah.
But that was a great show, great idea. I can't remember what we were saying before we started. We were talking about Redcon.
Oh yeah. How it's popular in your world, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to reel us back in
Okay.
abruptly. But yeah, like when it comes to taking pre-workout competition day, it's really obvious in powerlifting because what most people do is they drink a bang before they squat, they drink a bang before they bench, they drink a bang before they deadlift, and then they throw up. And you really feel like crap. What's that?
I said bang is the worst shit ever with the super creatine. But anyway, I digress.
People like bang in powerlifting, and strongman is rain. It's rain all day because of Hathor. Rain is probably the only major brand to really take an interest in strongman for some reason.
Very interesting.
Like when I was at World's Strongest Man in 2019, the only vendor there were 0 vendors except for rain.
Oh wow, okay.
And so there was no water, there was no food, there was only rain. And so it was funny. There'd be parents who'd be like, "Hey, Billy, go check out that booth over there." And so there'd be like 10-year-olds sipping on rain, acting crazy. I drank like 9 rains in a day. It was awful. There's no water. Jeez. And it was like 98 degrees with no breeze. It was terrible. It was awful. That was terrible. But when you're competing, what people are used to doing is feeling cracked out.
Yeah.
Because when you drink that many energy drinks, you feel depleted. Probably also has to do with the sodium dump that's associated with taking all that caffeine. But you feel terrible drinking all that through the day. Or if you're doing Redcon and you're trying to take a total war, they're trying to titrate out a half a scoop, a quarter scoop. What does it take for me to still feel good hitting a max lift, but not crash between events? Because it's 5 events in strongman.
Okay.
And so, you'll leave in an ambulance if you do 5 scoops of anything.
Excellent.
But for Crystal Pump, because it lasts for so long, you can take a whole scoop and go through the whole competition. If you want to have a second scoop before the last 2 events, you can do that, and it's not going to kill you. I don't know if I should officially advise taking 2 scoops in a day. Let me just put a warning on that. But you feel fine. I mean, it feels good. You feel level energy. You feel ready to compete. You feel focused. It worked great for competition. So the highly branched cyclic Dextrin, to me, is totally in line with that focus on performance, focus on competition, and focus on the needs of the athlete rather than just looking at the label and thinking what's best, or looking at the website and thinking, well, they should have this or that.
Yeah.
Think about what my customers who are already buying need.
Okay.
There's also like hydration supplement is something that I do want to do at some point.
Very popular right now. Yeah.
Really popular, and they work. That's kind of the thing that it comes down to for a lot of things that you can kind of ask, does it work? Hydration works. It's thoroughly, there's no one on earth that's going to tell you that it doesn't work.
No, of course.
And the other thing is a pretty obvious one. It's a stem-free. But the downside to a stem-free is that I don't want to fill the guest room of my house with stem-free just for when the 1 in 20 people tells me that they only take stem-free. It is not merely the number of sales. I'm sure I could promote it and get people to buy it. But that's a huge investment for something that I'm not really at the level. I'm not selling enough Crystal Pump for me to feel like the brand is ready.
Yeah. You'd be surprised though, because I ask a lot of friends of mine, the brand owners, like what the percentage is, and I'm hearing like 70-30. I've heard some 60-40 when it comes to stim versus non-stim. So it's a lot bigger than I thought. I thought it'd be like 80-20, 90-10, but a lot more people are going stim free. But again, like you said though, you got to kind of take it baby steps.
Yeah. And once I'm ready to, if it is an 80-20 situation and not a 70-30 or 60-40, I want to plan for it being the worst case, rather than plan for, go in, leap in and sit on $20,000 worth of product,
That's it.
And because that's a pretty big risk. But I do want you, because that once again does serve my customers. A lot of my customers want a stem free, because a lot of people like to take a stem break. People work out, if you work out past, I don't know, if you work out within 4 hours of going to bed, Crystal Pump's gonna mess with that.
Yeah.
I would say outside of that, it's fine. But if it's within that, I mean, it's probably gonna mess up your sleep. Even with Crystal Dreams, it's probably gonna mess up your sleep. Actually, I guess the most immediate thing would be the next version of my sleep product. That's gonna be the next release for sure.
Okay.
Just some really small changes.
Let me tout that for a minute. Let me tout that for a minute, Steve, because we talked about this, you and I DMing, I think, that your product does not have melatonin in it. And I know melatonin is another one of those products that, I should say, ingredients that it's a love or hate. So yours is a capsule, and if someone's listening to this looking for a sleep aid, and it's very cost efficient. I'm going to put that nicely. Very cost efficient sleep aid that does not have melatonin but is well dosed. Let me just recommend that. I haven't used it. I'm not plugging it, but just what I see on paper, it looks like a decent product.
Yeah, and it's, when it comes to sleep products, the things that I personally like, I've taken ZMAs, back to when my friend started working at Vitamin Shop back in 2006. ZMAs are abnormally expensive for what you're getting. And I like ZMAs. I like L-Theanine. I like some of the natural stuff. I'm not 100% sure that it makes a big difference, but just honestly, they're cheap to add to it. And so I don't mind taking that small leap. It's not a leap, it's a small step to say, well, let me just add these natural ingredients that there is some research that shows they matter.
Sure.
And then just make a product for an effective price. Because with Crystal Pump, I see Crystal Pump with everything. When you own any business, you are solving a problem. The problem that Crystal Pump solves is that I want premium ingredients, but I don't want 400 milligrams of caffeine.
Yep.
That's the problem. Crystal Pump is the solution. For the sleep, I like taking ZMAs. I don't want to pay $40 for something that shouldn't cost that much.
Exactly.
And so it's not necessarily just solving the problem of I want to sleep through the night and wake up refreshed. That's a problem that all sleep aids are trying to do. But my specific product is I want something cost effective for the product that I already like.
Exactly. Makes perfect sense.
And I feel like that's a good way of saying it's cheap. It is cheap. It's $20. It's really not, like, most sleep products are unusually expensive.
So Steve, somebody's actually, I have comments here. People are actually chiming in here, and somebody's asking, why didn't you add melatonin to the product? What was your thoughts of not adding it?
So for me, I like melatonin at lower dosages, like
Like 3 or
0.5 to
less?
2.5. I've personally liked
Okay.
melatonin at. There's
Yep.
good research for that dosage range. People who already take melatonin tend to take 5 milligrams or more. I personally think that's too much. I
Okay.
think that the research that I've seen also indicates that you don't need that much. From a consumer perspective, it's a yes or no question of I will or I won't buy something with melatonin.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think that 0.5 to 2.5 milligrams melatonin is worth losing all those customers.
Okay, fair enough.
I do believe that that's an effective, good dosage for a good ingredient. However, I think that people buy it if they don't. Or they're going to look at it and say like, oh, well, I like to take 10. I had one guy message me and tell me he takes like 60 milligrams of melatonin, or he mega doses melatonin, which can't.
That's crazy.
There's some sort of research about it. It does something that's like an off-label benefit of taking crazy dosages, like I guess a nootropic or something. I don't. He takes crazy dosages. I definitely I feel bad taking 5.
That doesn't surprise me though, because I've seen people taking GABA with their pre-workouts. And
Yeah,
me,
a lot of people
GABA, you need to be either. I mean, research on GABA. It relaxes you. Take it at night or at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, people are also putting L-Theanine in pre-workout.
Well, that's another story.
I got into an argument with somebody who told me I should put L-Theanine in, and I told him I don't need to. I've got my high ratio of dicaffeine malate makes it so you don't need the calming effect of the L-Theanine, which I also still don't know if it does anything in the context of pre-workout. And got into like a bit of a spit with this guy. But
That's awesome.
I wasn't going to back down and just tell him that L-Theanine. I really don't. I don't know if I would say I disagree with it being in pre-workout, because I feel like that might be a little bit more bold of a stance. I'm kind of a chill guy in a lot of ways. If you want to put it in there and you like it, that's fine with me. But I personally don't think it matters. I don't think that it adds a benefit. I think that if you used more dicaffeine malate relative to regular caffeine in any of these blends, that it would do the same thing.
Yeah, it's the people I've seen them where it's 1-to-1 ratio, and I've actually seen it where it's like 1.5 theanine to caffeine, which that blows my mind.
Yeah, I'm no scientist. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just somewhat of a sommelier. I just know what it feels like. Like
Supplement
swish it around
sommelier.
and I drink it, and I say, L-Theanine in that, huh? I don't know if that mattered in this context. Or like the GABA, like Psychopharma puts GABA in theirs. And I'm just not positive that makes a big difference in specifically what I would want it to do.
But Psychopharma puts so much caffeine in it, I think it almost overtakes the calming of a GABA.
Yeah. It's interesting because I took a lot of Psychopharma when I was out of product, partly because I saw them at the Olympia.
Okay.
They were the only non-mainstream pre-workout brand that I knew that I recognized and had taken before that was at the Olympia, which I kind of thought was interesting. And I'll also say I didn't think the Olympia was as bad as Rob was talking about it being. I don't know which episode it was. Rob was trashing the Olympia. The sumo wrestling was deep in the back. It was deep in the back. It was a little embarrassing. It was deep. It was past the strongman, and the strongman was hidden. But America's Strongest Man was there. It was a solid event. There's a lot of stuff.
Well, it's like anything. It's like, what do you go to these events for? Are you there to see the supplement companies? Are you there to see the women's slap fighting? You see the arm wrestling? So it depends what your cup of tea is.
Yeah, I would say that as a supplement showcase, it was terrible. I will say that it was a terrible supplement showcase.
Yes.
Compared to like when I used to go to events in the past, like a smaller event, or even like if I was at Europa, I thought that those were better supplement showcases than Olympia was. Maybe that's because companies just don't feel like giving away so much free product because that's all the people want from. They don't want to buy from you. They want to buy T-shirts. They don't want to buy supplements.
Yeah, exactly.
But Cyclepharm, I talked to them for a while. Once they found out that Crystal Pump was not a T-shirt company but was a supplement competitor, they were a little bit less talkative. But they were great. I like the product.
Darren, the owner?
What's that?
Did you talk to Darren, the owner?
I talked to his son.
Okay.
Darren was always talking to somebody else, but I talked to his son. His son was similar. It sounds like Darren. What was it?
I don't know his son.
It
Okay.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Now he does pretty good emails. But because I go to all these companies and I sub to every email list that I can find.
Yep.
Cyclopharm is very consistent with their emails.
Okay.
But after taking Crystal Pump for so long, I used to feel like that was a very extreme product. But I really, that I didn't take Crystal Pump so much. I mean, it just didn't really make me feel psychotic like it once kind of did.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a good product. I like the brand. I think they make good products. I've been taking Crystal Pump so long. And that was another time. Instead of drinking free water, I just drank Edge of Insanity at the Olympia.
Jeez. Steve, so fast forward now, are you happy with where the brand is? I mean, like, I don't know if you actually have a business plan or you're just kind of, hey, I sold 10 units more than last month, so it's a good month for me, or I don't know if you're tracking that type of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I definitely do. So as far as where the brand is at today, I was doing purely organic growth
Okay.
up until I just started doing paid advertising about, what was it, 4 weeks ago? I think 4 weeks ago. And that's changed the goals. Because for me, I do daily goals, which is quite literally short-sighted. And I want to sell, because I kind of stage it out, is that if I can do 5 units a day, then that will get me, because I stopped doing personal training. I don't do anything to make money but Crystal Pump. That will make me enough money and profit, assuming that I can stay at $18 or under for cost of customer acquisition. That'll make me enough money to pay my bills.
Awesome.
I can't might not be able to buy groceries beyond the bare minimum essentials at best.
The ramen and milk.
Yeah, exactly. Like that'll get me the ramen and milk. As long as the hot water heater's off, I can do that. But all right, so 5 units a day is a good start. Can I get to 5 units a day? If I'm not getting 5 units a day, who can I text? Who can I call to make sure that I hit 5 units in a day? And then that turns into, okay, well, here's what it looks like at 7 units. Here's what it looks like at 10 units. Here's the scalability of like cost per customer acquisition that I would have to hit for this to turn into something that I can save enough money to buy a new product, because I'm not having to worry about paying my bills. A new product, not just, obviously I have to have the money to buy a new Crystal Pump, but if I wanted to buy Crystal Pump PM, the stem-free version, or whatever I want to call it. Or if I wanted to do like an athlete signature series to get somebody disproportionately popular on board with Crystal Pump. Like what could I do to get, I've got somebody in mind. He doesn't know he's in mind. Like what could I do to get him a deal that would incentivize him to come on board with me versus just doing an affiliate deal with some crap product that everybody makes a bunch of. Because you make the most money off of crap products for sure. And having the money in place that I can make that order or order more the Crystal Spunk, whatever I need to order, have that money put aside from making more income. I'm also I just got into brick and mortar stores.
Oh, good.
So I'm in talks with one in New York now. I won't say his name. We haven't sent the money yet, and then we'll send the product. But Charlotte Supplements in North Carolina reached out to me. They're the only store right now that I'm in.
Great.
It sold very well. I'd have to look at the exact numbers. I think they sold out. They sold 12 units in 4 weeks. I think that's pretty good.
Definitely.
I don't know if there's a brick and mortar person listening out there saying that's just awful, but they made a second order. So that tells me that that's good.
That's what it comes down to. Yes, repeat customers, repeat orders. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and if they make a repeat order, then it did pretty well. I guess I'm also in a top gym or the top in Connecticut. They're either in Connecticut or Rhode Island. I can't remember. To me, the Northeast is a blur.
You Floridians.
Yeah, we're the size of the entire Northeast put together. I don't know what that is up there. What, Rhode Island connected to land? Get out of here. But I'm in that gym. And there are other people who reach out, and we'll talk. But it's it's just being able to give a deal that, for me, it's just cash flow. Like I make very little on it because I don't have. Anybody out there can go get a quote on how much it costs to get an order of Crystal Pump. For me to get the supplement store to make money, that has to be my priority.
Of course.
And so I've got to give something that incentivizes them to get it so that they can sell it to their customers, make enough money, they want to order more.
Yep.
So for me, that can just get cash flowing. Like that doesn't count to my 5 units a day because that's really not paying bills. That's paying for the next batch of pump. But I'm happy to do more of that with people because if we can get to a point that I can make larger orders, then we're both winning.
Well, exactly, because your cost per goods comes down. The larger the order, they start coming down by pennies and dollars.
Exactly. I mean, even coming down by 50 cents is a big deal when you're making bigger orders. And then there's certain things too. Like I'm going to make some adjustments to Crystal Pump's next formula. I'm not positive it's going to increase or decrease my cost. I'm not going to change the cost for the customers. But there are some changes that I want to make to it. Some of them are obviously going to cost more, but then I do others. Is that going to break it even? That all, who knows with that. But yeah, as far as like the business plan, so to speak, is that I would like to make my next order to sell out of my current product and have the next order in hand by the end of April.
Okay.
Going back and adding the orange pineapple flavor, Pineapple OG.
Oh, nice.
And that was a very popular. The people who like that flavor love that flavor. I'm not an adventurous flavor sort of guy.
Okay.
I think that the product itself matters a lot more. And I think that if you release something like a, I don't know, raspberry limeade, and it tastes like just absolute shit, I don't think that that's going to help you out more than having a fruit punch that people aren't excited to buy. But
okay,
it tastes good, and so they keep taking it. But like I mean, there's certain products that I taste some of the flavors are disgusting. I think Rocket Pop is the worst tasting thing I've ever had. It's the most requested flavor. I think it tastes like melted plastic or something. It's disgusting. I'm not going to release it. I'm not going to invest thousands of dollars into Rocket Pop. I don't care how popular it is. It's very popular.
It's hit or miss. I've had some really good ones. I've had some really bad ones. But that's like with any flavor. Your blue ras could rock it, and another blue ras somebody else could terrible, or vice versa.
Yeah, I'm sure that people think my blue ras. I'm sure that people think my blue ras is worse than somebody's Rocket Pop. I will say that there's somebody who probably thinks that, and that's probably true in some cases. But I mean, there's probably good tasting. I've never had good tasting Rocket Pop, but the orange pineapple was very popular. I like those flavors. It's a little bit adventurous. I don't think it's that adventurous.
No, but I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that has it. I'm sure there's companies that have it, but obviously be unique to you.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen anybody else who has it. As for the name Pineapple, it might coincidentally sound very similar to a very famous person.
Okay.
But only 5% of people will get that.
Bump.
But that flavor is probably also in South Florida. They love those tropical flavors.
Yeah.
They bought that like crazy. They bought the orange pineapple like crazy. Review Bros thought that my last one tasted pretty musty.
Okay.
For the orange pineapple, but I mean that's with Lion's Mane. That's kind of to me, it's kind of a foregone conclusion that it's not going to taste perfect. But yeah, that's the next immediate step.
Okay.
Is having more Crystal Pump in hand, and with that, that's going to be more blue raspberry. I'll try and tweak something with it to get it to be a bit more appetizing, perhaps would be the right word, or bearable to others. Like my cousin hates the taste of it, but other people tell me they love it. So it's hit or miss for people with blue ras.
At the end of the day, people listening, the results are in the product, not the taste. At the end of the day, do you get any product you try pre-workout? Are you getting the pumps? You getting the neuro? Or you getting the energy? Whatever it is, who cares what the taste is? I mean, we discussed this at the beginning of the podcast. As long as the product itself works, doesn't taste if it's ass flavored or not.
Yeah. Like it might matter to those broccoli-headed boys in the gym. They might care about sipping on something that tastes good, but to the serious athlete, to the Crystal Crusader, to my ideal customer and avatar, they do not care about the taste of the product. I mean, as long as it's not horrific. And it's definitely not horrific. I mean, it's definitely, nobody has said it's horrific. But the Crystal Crusaders, the true fighters of pump, do not care about having a flashy flavor with a branded partner, licensed out flavoring for Crystal Pump.
Amen. Steve, it's been a great conversation. Is there anything else we haven't touched? I know we're talking an hour, coming on 2 hours here, which I've loved. I've absolutely loved.
I can talk to you for another 3 hours for sure, but
We'll
I'll let us hang it up there. Oh, I do have one more thing. So for the show, I did add a free shipping discount.
Oh, great.
So if you use code radio, I do all my codes I do in all caps. Every discount code I've ever used has been all caps. I don't know if it matters, but it's all caps radio. You get free shipping on your order. If you use code PUMP10, that's just a standard 10% off. Every company's got their standard discount. PUMP10 gets you 10% off. If you sign up for the emails, it's 20% off. I might change that. So if you're listening in the future, that might be a little bit too strong of an incentive. I might not need to give 20% off. So sign up for the emails now and secure your 20% off your first order. Yeah, those are the discounts. I want to make sure I bring those up.
And Steve, what's the website?
crystalpump.com. You can find me at crystalpump.com. You can find me on Instagram at crystalpump. You can find me on TikTok at crystalpump. There may or may not be a functioning TikTok store at the time of listening. You can find me personally at Strongman Steve. You can find my meme page. If you're between the ages of 13 and 22, you'll enjoy the meme page at @crystalpump_ on _IG. And I guess that's the end of it. This is a fast talking moment.
So wait a minute, if you're over 22, you're not going to enjoy that? You're not going to enjoy that page?
I think it's unlikely that your brain is rotted enough from the internet over the age of 22. I mean, the meme page is, I honestly maybe shouldn't even shout it out. It's out there. I saw you followed the meme page.
Yes.
It is out there. Most people wouldn't have spent enough time on the internet, in the pits of shit posts in the meme pages. The meme page is why the penis pills would sell well. That audience would find it hilarious.
Full circle back to the penis page. Okay, but anyway.
But if you're over the age of 22, you might not want to buy crystals. Everybody would want to buy Crystal Spunk. It'd be hilarious. Until Crystal Spunk is out, I'll recommend these other products from other brands. I think that Major Load is hilarious. Ejaculate is hilarious. Gift it to people. Totally worth gifting it. For all ages over 18. And yeah, those are the pages. I need an excuse to rattle off with my fast talk in there.
It's okay. So Chris,
but any more questions for me? I'll just add to the show. Like, hope everyone who listens to the show enjoys the shows as much as I do. I love listening to other supplement company owners, reviewers, bodybuilders that for me who doesn't follow bodybuilding, I've never heard of these people before. So just listening to somebody that I'm unfamiliar with, getting to know them as a person. You do a great job interviewing people. You ask great questions, Sean.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I just hope that everybody who listens appreciates what you added to the show today, even if they hated me,
What I added to the show. I don't know. Either people are loving me more and more because I'm doing more and more podcasts, or like this Joker again. But anyway, I have a good time doing this.
You ask good questions. You offer insight where appropriate. You get clarity. It's the important things that are required of an interviewer.
I appreciate that.
And maybe to the listener right now, listening to the guest fluff up the host might just sound terrible. Or you're listening and you're thinking, you know what? Sean does do a great job. Thank you, Sean. I'm going to give you 5 stars on iTunes. I'm going to go and I'm going to leave a comment on your YouTube page after listening in totality to make sure that the algorithm is happy with you. You can give a like to this video just for Sean. That's what I hope the listener feels.
Wow. What a great way to end the show on that, man. Holy cow. But anyway,
just clip that and clip that only from this. The rest of the show sucked. They're going to hate me.
Crystal Spunk, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. That's all there is out of this.
That's what the viewers want to see, right?
But Steve, it's truly been a pleasure. As I tell all my guests, the podcast door is always open. Whenever you want to come back again, talk about more Strongman, more new products, new flavors, more Spunk, whatever, the door is always open, my friend.
If you've got a dead time, man, I only do Crystal Pump. So my schedule is very open. It's embarrassingly open. I've got very few friends because I live in a college town and I don't drink. So I'm very available. And so anytime that you've got somebody cancels, you've got dead time, you need a guest, dial me up and say, Strongman Steve, I'm desperate. You can even come in character as one of your Crystal Chronicle characters. I'll shout out my videos. I would appreciate if the people who listen to this, if you've got any sense of humor, going to the Crystal Pump page and just enjoying the videos that are highlighted in the highlights portion of the Instagram page. Click on the story, then click on the video itself because they're usually longer than 15 seconds.
Okay.
And just let me know, was it a complete waste of your time, or did you appreciate the artistic direction that I took for the page? You know, that's all I need to know from you guys. So check that out. I'll shout out my own videos. Nobody watches them more than me. I laugh every time I watch them. They're so silly. So I hope that the viewers go and view those and enjoy them.
As you said, if you can't poke fun at yourself, who can you poke fun at?
Oh, exactly. And if you think they absolutely suck, please leave a hateful comment. Please just be as mean as possible, as brutal as possible. And I'll appreciate that too.
Steve, but again, it's truly been an honor. I appreciate our new friendship. Look forward to the growth of the brand, and definitely look forward to having you back, my friend.
You as well, Sean. It's been a great evening.
Thank you so much. And for everybody, make sure, like Steve said, like, subscribe, comment, follow his 86 Instagram pages, his 22 TikToks, crystalpump.com. And again, code radio saves your money. Pump 10 saves your radio. Stock up, buy. And as always, folks, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Over and out.